You're listening to the Really Useful Podcast. This is the tech podcast for technophobes from makeuseof.com. This week's show is absolutely jam-packed with the tech news that matters, tips and tricks that will help you out, and even a few recommendations. My name is Christian Cawley, and with me this week is Mr. Ben Stegner. How are you, Ben?
Doing good. It's good to be chatting with you, and it's warm today here. I think we're having some weather where I can't decide whether it wants to be summer or winter, and I would just like spring. Kind of, little known fact, there actually is a season between those two, so hoping for a little bit of that, but yeah, doing good otherwise.
In the latest weather report from the northeast of the UK, it's freezing. It's about 7 degrees outside, which is par for the course, really. Now, last couple of podcasts I've actually put together several weeks in advance. I'm sure you couldn't tell. And I was away last week in London, which I know we have most of our audiences in the UK and the USA. And for those of us in the UK, that's a bit like, oh, he's gone to that day, London, unless you already live in London, in which case you're probably thinking, why has this northerner come here? For the Americans, you're probably thinking, oh, you've gone to see the Queen. I kind of actually did do a bus tour, which I've never done before on any previous trips to London. But one of the things that struck me most about the UK's capital, which always does, is how warm it is compared to where I'm from. I can go to any city in the north, and maybe Liverpool and Manchester might be quite warm because of that sort of that urban heat that you get. But generally speaking, it doesn't happen with other cities. I always find it's very warm in London, regardless. So
London's like muggy warm too, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
So that was what I was doing, and that's why the last few podcasts have just been me doing most of the talking, and then sort of pre-recorded sections of basic material that we haven't used in other podcasts, because we do a big bit of talking. And this week we've got a lot to get through, and as we're recording this, it's just transpired in a small sequel to last week's news section. Elon Musk has bought Twitter. Now, we don't have a news report about this on Make Use of just yet, but there should be one in the show notes. In the meantime, I'm just going to refer to the UK Telegraph, which states that Twitter has been bought for $44 billion, and the social network dropped its opposition to the Tesla billionaire's bid and unanimously accepted the $54.2 per share bid. That is one of the quickest buyouts in history, surely.
Yeah, I figured it would be quite a while more of going back and forth. I had actually offered $43 billion myself, so he wanted to beat me by just you beat me by just $1 billion there, so I just couldn't cough up the extra $1 billion to match him. But all joking aside though, you're right that it was. I mean, I feel like this hasn't really been in the news for 10 days, and now it's done. It's not done, but it's settled. It's decided on. So that's quite a quick turnaround.
Yeah. There's a lot to this, and there's a lot of people upset about this, but just to state here, the chief executive of Tesla and SpaceX, writes the Telegraph, has said he sees Twitter as a public square, quote unquote, and that he wants to defend free speech on the service. He has said he's not interested in making money from the company, but that he wants to reduce its reliance on advertising. One of the biggest pains of using Twitter, and I probably use Twitter more than any social network, are the adverts, and they're so poorly targeted anyway. The number of things I see that are just absolutely of no interest or relevance to me is a little bit embarrassing for them, to be honest with you. It's like they're just throwing things on the off chance.
I don't notice that too much because I have personalized ads turned off on basically every platform. So I occasionally Instagram has started showing me ads for music that it knows I like. So I thought I had it personalized ads turned off on there. It must just be from pages I follow. So I kind of like that because I found a couple bands that are not too bad from that. But Twitter, how Twitter suggests topics that it thinks you'll like?
Yeah.
Not ads, just like genuine stuff. Some of the stuff it's suggested there has been really off. I probably shouldn't give any examples, but it'll just be like a topic I have no interest in or feel feel exactly the opposite about that it thinks I does. Why would you think I'd be interested in this? It's just totally, like you said, almost seems random. Hey, this is popular. You'll like it.
Yes, it's a strange experience, Twitter. But I mean, we'll see how this transpires, obviously, but the purchase seems to be settled. That's done. The money's going to be changing hands. Elon Musk is going to own Twitter. Whether or not it'll improve Twitter or not, I mean, in many ways, it can't get much worse than it is now. So,
yeah,
presumably, it will improve slightly. We will move on from that to Microsoft Bing helping you to buy vegan shoes. It's part of its new ethical shopping hub that makes buying eco-friendly clothes a breeze. You can head over to the ethical shopping hub at www.bing.com/shop/ethical-shopping. That's ethical-shopping for those of you. I just want to know if they do any vegan backpacks, because I suggested a sitcom plot in a masterclass with some comedy writers recently, and I suggested the idea of a vegan backpack that was made from mushrooms that hadn't been properly dried and then spawned over the people that were camping using the backpack. There doesn't seem to be any. Oh, that's disappointing. There's no vegan backpacks. Well, anyway, all joking aside, once again, I mean, it's nice to have that option of an ethical shopping hub. Until you remember that this is Microsoft. So they're only interested in this is clearly just financial. The default Bing search engine, according to this article on Microsoft, will do its part to help you find the clothes that suit your needs. So running a search for vegan shoes, that's shoes that don't include animal products in them. Of course, I was being really flippant before, and I know what vegan products are. Will prompt Bing to show you relevant results. It's an unusual departure for essentially what is a search engine. I like the concept of it. I'm not sure if vegan products is the angle that I would go with, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. To be honest, I never knew there was such a thing as vegan shoes. Honestly, I'm not trying to be funny. I mean, obviously, I know what vegan is, but I didn't know that that was something that people applied to shoes. I guess that would just be like leather free. I'm trying to think of other animal product, or like I guess like animal hair in the laces or something. Yeah, I mean, if I was designing an an ethical shopping page, I would be more focused on products that are like human friendly, like not developed in horrendous conditions. Like that's what I would focus on before I worried about anything with animals myself. But it looks like it's their partner Good on You, the page says, and it says that their focal areas are people, planet, and animals. So if there's other considerations there, I guess that's not too bad. Yeah, I'm curious if a lot of people were interested in this, or if they just want the best deal, or what the thought is there.
Well, we'll see how that transpires. I'll say it's part of Bing, so it's presumably going to be there for a while to check out. And the link to the article about that you will find in this week's show notes. We move on now to Ubuntu 22.04 Jammy Jellyfish. This is the latest release of Ubuntu, which is kind of a major Linux operating system. I've just upgraded to it a couple of days ago, and I found that it is reasonably very good. However, there is a little bit of a problem with anyone who wants to use Firefox, because it's the method of running Firefox has changed. That's annoyed a few people, but to be honest with you, it's pretty minor, really. In the Linux world, there's various ways of installing software, and Mozilla Firefox, being a wonderful operating system, is available in lots of different ways. But one of these ways is a snap package, which is an alternative package management system developed by Ubuntu's developer Canonical, based in the UK. But this takes longer to load, which really annoys me. But then again, on the other hand, I don't shut down or restart my computer very often, and I don't close the browser very often. So in many ways, it doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, it's a lot of... It's upset a few people, and some say it slows down performance. I'm not convinced about that. There are other issues with performance I've experienced recently on other devices that concern me more than this. Let's put it that way.
So I'm not too familiar with Linux packages at all, so I don't have a ton to add here. Is this Does it make it so that it's more like baked into the operating system and less like a third-party app? Like kind of like how it's hard to uninstall. Well, it used to be hard to uninstall like Internet Explorer or something.
Well, that's weird. It's weird to answer that one because before it was literally baked in, whereas now it seems to be sort of less baked in. So it's a bit of a difficult one to answer. One thing I should add, though, is that this is Ubuntu. So this is kind of like the king of the Ubuntu operating system. So all the Linux operating systems that are derived from Ubuntu are going to have the same changes in them when they're released over the next few weeks. So we've already got Lubuntu and Xubuntu and all the others. But the important thing is that this is an LTS, which means long-term support. What that basically means is that it gets lots of updates and lots of patches, and this software is well maintained over the course of its 5-year lifespan. So if you are planning on switching to Ubuntu, this is the one to go with, an LTS, long-term support, because that way you're going to experience the most stable Linux experience, basically. Experience the experience. Yeah, well, brilliant English for me there. But yeah, that's going to give you the best Linux experience, an LTS, if you're choosing Ubuntu. Let's move on. You're not going crazy. Microsoft Defender really did flag a Google Chrome update as malicious. It is a false positive, though. So, reported by Neowin, people from forums and websites around the world are reporting Microsoft Defender accusing Google Chrome, of being a malicious program. Microsoft has since confirmed that the detection is a false positive, so you shouldn't fear that you're downloading something sinister onto your PC if you update Chrome. I beg to differ.
Look at it, I suppose.
So basically what happened is the Google Chrome update was not correctly signed. Signing code is an important aspect of software development and software release, because the signature confirms that the code hasn't been tampered with since its creation. And as the update files were not properly signed, Microsoft Defender blocked it, took the safe option, which is good because you want your antivirus software or anti-malware software to be cautious, don't you?
Yeah, but you don't want it to be too cautious. And with the way that we've seen malware attacks happen in the last several years, it's definitely plausible to think that there could have been like a tampered Chrome update that was being pushed out. I mean, Chrome is so huge, I probably wouldn't be what someone would go for because it's probably so hard to break into. But, we've seen bad updates go out and infect software like that. But as the article talks about too, it's probably more of a knock against Microsoft Defender because those little things add up when you get like a bunch of false positives and you think, can I even trust this? If it's going to freak out over a false positive, is it actually catching a real problem? So that's not great to see that.
Yeah, well, it's an accident, isn't it? So I guess we'll see how it... I can't see this happening too regularly, but...
Yeah, I don't either. And I've been using Microsoft Defender for years now, and I'd much rather have it be quiet and just do its job and occasionally have a small false positive like that than have to deal with Avast or another big antivirus's nonsense of, popping up constantly and trying to sell me crap I don't want. So...
yeah. Couldn't agree more. Okay, so that's your tech news for this week. Now it's time for some tips and tricks. We have a selection of tips and tricks to help you make the best out of your technology. And this one is pretty much follows on from what we've been talking about. Why you have a responsibility to keep your computer secure. Keeping your devices free of malware isn't just smart. It's a duty, isn't it, Ben?
It is. It's something where we talk a lot about security as, keep yourself safe, keep your devices safe, keep your own data from getting hacked, things like that. But it's actually important to think, too, about how your device being secure actually protects your friends and other people that you might not even know. So I have a guide to some of the reasons why it's really important to keep your device secure as kind of a duty as an online user. So we'll cover those quickly. first and probably the most important to remember is that what you do on your device can infect other people. If you have a computer and you bring it to your friend's house and connect to their network, and you unknowingly have some piece of malware that spreads over a network, you could be delivering that to their computers. I know USB drives aren't too common these days, but if you had a flash drive and you gave it to someone to download a program or something, if you could have had a piece of malware on your computer that jumped to that flash drive, and then when your friend plugs it in, they're going to infect their own machine. So things like that that's why the term virus was used originally, because it spreads like a virus. So that's one of the reasons why you have to make sure that your computer isn't a point of infection for other people. One of the other big risks are botnets, which I believe we've talked about before. That's basically when a lot of computers are unknowingly part of like a zombie network, and then whoever's controlling all those machines can use them to attack a website to bring it down, or generate a bunch of spammy clicks on a website to make money, things like that. So if you're part of a botnet, then your computer's resources are being used to do something that you definitely wouldn't agree with doing on your own. Another factor is that you can embarrass yourself or your friends. Certain viruses and other infections can send out Facebook messages, and your friends might kind of roll their eyes and think that your security practices aren't great because they're getting fake messages from people that are pretending to be you. If your email account got taken over, it might send out spam to people in your address book. So maybe if you were trying to get a job and you were emailing a client for a job or something like that, that could send spam to them and make you look kind of silly, and you would maybe lose a job opportunity over it. And it could happen if that happened to your friend too. Combined with the above, if you infected them and then their email client was sending out junk to people that trust them. And with mobile apps specifically, another key point to remember is that it's actually pretty easy to give up data on your friends. So if you have people's contact information in your phone and you install an app that has access to your contacts, if the app wanted to, it could just suck up all that data, and then it would have your friends' phone numbers and potentially their email address, or even their physical address if you have that saved. So you don't want to just give up data on your friends like that. So it's vital to make sure that you're not installing apps that are going to do that. And then there's also the practical aspect of, if you install ransomware on your computer and you have to rebuild all your files, that could take a while. Then your computer's down for Skyping with friends, video chatting with friends, or playing a video game every week with your old buddies or something like that. So, when your computer goes down, it's not fun, and then things you rely on it for kind of get delayed, and that might not be something you think about. So, in addition to all the reasons to keep your system secure that we've talked about in the past, those are kind of the social reasons, if you will.
All very good reasons, and you should take heed of all of them, dear listener. What is scam likely, and what does the notification on a phone actually mean? You might have seen it when you've used your phone's caller ID to see who's calling. The name may appear to be scam likely. But who is this person? Ben, who's scam likely?
Yeah, so Mr. or Mrs. Likely is not actually a person. It is a feature that is built into T-Mobile's network. It's called Scam Shield is the overall feature. And it's activated on their network to try to protect their users as much as possible from these scam calls. So if you have T-Mobile, or if you're on Metro, which is their subsidiary, or if you're still on a Sprint plan since Sprint and T-Mobile merged, you might see this Scam Likely message appear on your phone. It doesn't matter what phone you have. It can be Android or an iPhone, even a basic flip phone. Essentially, the company has this feature turned on so that when you get a call that is from a known dangerous number, or if other people have reported it to have usual scammy things like robocalls or tech support scams that we've talked about before. It's just warning you ahead of time that if you pick up, you're probably going to be dealing with one of those, is basically what that is.
It's a cool feature. I found lately I've been getting a few spam calls, and I always mark them as spam. But a few of them have been coming through because obviously these spammy people change their number slightly, don't they? And they're always, almost always from the same place. So it seems someone's desperate to con me into buying something stupid, or letting them dial into my computer or any of those things, or handing off my bank account details. That's the other one. So it's good to have this feature. I just wish it was a little bit more robust, but hopefully. Because, here in the UK, I'm not entirely sure it's like in the US. I suspect it's similar from research I've done for Make Use of. The organizations that are in charge of telecommunications really aren't capable, they don't have the tools to block spam calls, whereas internet-connected smartphones with access to a sort of giant blacklist, they surely do, don't they?
Yeah, that's kind of where this links in. So I think we have another article about the shaken/stirred protocol, which is something that basically every major network provider, I think in the U.S. it might be international, but at least in the U.S. Has implemented or is implementing on their network, and it's to try to block scam calls like this kind of at their source, or to prevent them. Like once one person reports it, they just shut it down because these are so common. I mean, there's like I think literally billions of them a year. So yeah, like you said, it's easier for them to do it with large lists that are web connected rather than trying to do it like analog manually like in the old days. And in the linked article, I won't go through it all here, but there are a lot of other resources you can use to get more aggressive. T-Mobile itself has a couple of other features where you can block those calls instead of just being alerted with the scam likely message. Other carriers have similar features. Most of them there's a free version and there's a version you can pay for, which you generally don't need to pay for. It's just because there's free apps you can use to do the same thing. And Android and iPhone both have built-in features where you can block unknown callers or suspected spam callers in some cases. So there are more options you can take if it's a big-time problem for you. I haven't been getting, it seems like they come in periods for me. I haven't been getting a lot of spam calls lately, but I have been getting scam text and WhatsApp messages more often. On WhatsApp, it's just like Bitcoin investment crap. And then text, it's like fake bank alerts and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if my number got out there somewhere. It seems like it's happening a little more often than it used to.
Yes, they can be a pain. They can be a pain indeed. And, I mean, there is very little you can do other than try and politely say, no, hang up. Or, wait for them to hurl abuse at you if you don't play ball. This seems like a good time to also mention that I'll include a link to the time I spoke to a telephone scam person on make use of on the phone. And I'll include a link to that in the show notes as well. So
that's a classic.
Thank you. VPNs, virtual private networks. You probably have heard of a virtual private network, a VPN, whether through seeing adverts on the internet or even on TV, because a few of them, Surfshark, a few others advertise on TV, or through work. Now, the interesting thing is, in terms of work, if you're working in an office and you've heard the term VPN, that VPN that you use in an office is different to the one that you use at home. There are roughly 5 different types of VPN. I'm going to go through the list of them now. This is really, it's a small piece of education. Just to clarify what a VPN is in your head. It's basically a tool to securely connect to a network over the internet, which establishes a private connection called a VPN tunnel, which routes traffic through the tunnel so that traffic cannot be observed or diverted. There are 5 types of VPN. The first is remote access VPN. That's the type that connects you to a private network via a secure remote server. That's the type that you see advertised. There is a site-to-site VPN, which is typically used in large companies where multiple users in various locations need to access shared resources. This might be intranet VPN or extranet VPN, or a VPN that operates via the internet. That's good for connecting geographically distant offices across the internet securely. There's also client-to-server VPN, which is useful for connecting client computers to servers on corporate networks, useful for work from home. It's also useful for managing web servers. P2P VPN is compatible with peer-to-peer networks, and that can keep your peer-to-peer downloads secure. And then we have single protocol versus multi-protocol VPNs. These determine how data is routed through a network. And this gives users versatility in the protocols, and some are more suited to particular purposes, which is why you need all the different protocols running there. Services like ExpressVPN, NordVPN, Surfshark, and others support all major VPN protocols. And, if you're using multi-protocol, it should automatically detect your scenario, what you're using the VPN for, and choose the correct one for you. That's is an article by Fawad Ali on Make Use Of that I've referred to there. Check that out in this week's show notes. We've reached that part of the show where we like to share with you a recommendation. It's something that we've experienced over the past few days that we think you would like to know about. And it's been a few weeks since Ben and I last chatted in this manner. So I'm pretty sure we've had plenty of time to gather some new recommendations. Would you like to go first, seeing as I've gone on my own for the last couple of weeks?
Sure, that's fine. So I was actually trying to think of something fun because I had a few. I feel like most things I've recommended are like things I use all the time, and I tend to like find something and use it for a while, so I don't come across new stuff as often as I'd like to. But my recommendation for this week is a site called Whisperify. I was going to say Whisperify. It's Whisperify. It is a fun little music quiz site that connects your Spotify account, and then you log in with that, and you can play a little music quiz with your top tracks. So the reason that I found this is, I'm sure as most people listening to this have played Wordle and one or more of its spin-off versions. So there's a version called Hurdle, Heardle, where every day it pulls a random track from, I think, SoundCloud that's well known, and it plays. You get 6 guesses, and you get a snippet of the song. So you hear 1 second, and then you can guess or skip it, and then 2 seconds, and so on. And you're trying to guess the song just based on its intro. And I thought, I like that. It's like the game show Beat Shazam, if you've heard of that. It's kind of fun to try to identify it. But if it's music I don't know, and I don't know it, like, it's not that fun. So I went looking for an alternative, and I found Whisperify. So you log in with Spotify, and then it pulls your top 100 tracks. And then you can do a multiple choice. You can do a one where you have to type in the name, but it'll autocomplete to help you. And then you choose how long of a snippet of each song to hear. If you want to go back for the last 4 weeks, 6 months, or the whole lifetime of your account for your top tracks. And then you can also exclude some artists if you listen to like white noise or something where you can't really identify it. And then you do the quiz. You can do your top tracks or one of your playlists, which I think is, one of your playlists too. So it's just fun. And you get a score at the end based on your accuracy and how fast you were. And then you can send the link to your friends and they'll do a showdown with the same songs. And then it gives you a little personal profile too about your stats. And then there's also like some achievements you can go for. So it's a fun little thing. If you like music and want to challenge yourself to see how well you know the stuff you listen to all the time just from a snippet, it's a good time.
That sounds really cool. I'm going to check that out. Although I don't use Spotify that much, but I'm sure I must have 100 tracks on there. My recommendation, now I've sent my recommendation to Ben, but I'm changing it. I'm going to save that for another time.
Last second change?
Yeah. It's a last minute change because last week I was in London, but after we came home from London, we remembered that there was something else that we wanted to do while the children were still off school, which was to go to York, where a building called Clifford's Tower, which is dates from the Norman Conquest, had been reopened and it's been renovated inside, and it's something we've never done before, so we went to check that out. Now, while we were there, we went to a place called the Fudge Kitchen. This is a place where they create fudge in front of you that you can then buy.
Okay.
Hot fudge is poured onto Italian marble where it cools and is sort of mixed further and sort of kneaded with sort of what basically look like wallpaper scrapers. And you can find out more about this at www.fudgekitchen.co.uk. There are a couple of fudge shops around the UK, and I don't know if they sell internationally, but you can buy fudge online and get it posted to you. And I would say, because quite often fudge can be kind of a bit grainy, which happens when it's not prepared correctly. There's a chemical thing to do with the sugar either not dissolving properly or something like that. This fudge is full of sugar and full of cream and various other flavours. And it's worth checking out if you are into fudge. It is delicious. And if you have any dietary requirements, there is they make some from coconut milk, and they make some from oat milk as well if you're vegan. So that's good as well. Now, I say this as if I've never been there before. I've been there loads of times, and it gets better every time. It's not a big store, and as I say, they've got several places around the UK. I don't think they've gone international yet. They probably should, but they have a nice kind of a very sort of small sort of village cottage operation atmosphere to it, when really they're making fudge all day, and then they sell it, and it's dead tasty. And, you know, they've got a website, so you can check it out. So, you know, it qualifies as a recommendation.
I'm looking at their site now. So I Googled it, and Fudge Kitchens came up, fudgekitchens.com. In the U.S., they have a location in Cape May, Wildwood, Stone Harbor, and Ocean City, New Jersey. It doesn't seem that there's any relation. Probably, but I'm looking at the actual UK site now. There's a lot here. Yeah, there's Fudge subscriptions you can get, a 3, 6, or 12-month plan. Fudge
they do drinking fudge as well.
Yeah, drinking fudge. It says the most efficient way to get fudge into your system. That's hilarious. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, this sounds pretty cool. I like fudge. It's one of those things where it's, when you see it, it's always something fun to grab, and it's one of those things that's like more of an experience, I think, like you're saying, where when you're watching them make it in front of you, and there's a million different flavors and free samples and stuff. That's definitely something that'd be fun to try.
Yeah. So that's my recommendation. And as ever, that brings us neatly to the end of this week's really useful podcast. It would be great if you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcast. If you do, let us know, and we might read it out. You'll find everything that we've discussed in this week's show in the show notes. And until next time, from Ben Stegner and myself, Christian Cawley, it's goodbye from us.